related angles. Are angles that the difference or the sum of their measures equals a whole number of right angles. Again, the related angles are angles that the difference or the sum of their measures equals a whole number of right angles. For example, theta plus 180 minus theta equals 180. Again, theta plus 180 minus theta equals 180. So, theta and 180 minus theta are related angles. For example, 150 and 30, they are called related angles. 120 and 60, they are called related angles. Trigonometric functions of two supplementary angles. Again, trigonometric functions of two supplementary angles, theta and 180 minus theta. Sine 180 minus theta equals sine theta. Cosec 180 minus theta equals cosec theta. Cosine 180 minus theta equals negative cosine theta. And sec 180 minus theta equals negative sec theta. Tan 180 minus theta equals negative tan theta. Cotan 180 minus theta equals negative cotan theta. So, we see that sine and cosec are positive in the second quadrant. Where the second quadrant, we talk about the angle that is 180 minus theta that is less than 180. That means that it's in the second quadrant. So, in the second quadrant, sine and cosine are positive, but sine and cosec are positive, but cosine, sec, tan, and cotan are negative as you see. So, let's have example. Cosine 120 equals cosine 180 minus 60. Again, cosine 120, what's 120? 120 is 180 minus 60. So, 180 minus is in the second quadrant. So, cosine is negative in the second quadrant. So, we put the negative sign and the answer is negative cosine 60, which is negative half. Another example, sine 135 equals sine 180 minus 45. So, 180 minus 45 is in the second quadrant. So, sine is positive in the second quadrant. So, it will be sine 45. That's equal 1 over square root 2. Number 2, trigonometric function of two angles of measure theta and 180 plus theta. Sine 180 plus theta equals negative sine theta. Again, sine 180 plus theta equals negative sine theta. Cosec 180 plus theta equals negative cosec theta. Cosine 180 plus theta equals negative cosine theta. Sec 180 plus theta equals negative sec theta. Tan 180 plus theta equals tan theta. Cotan 180 plus theta equals negative equals cotan theta. That's why, because 180 plus is in the third quadrant, so sine, cosine, cosec, and sec are negative in the third quadrant, but tan and cotan are positive in the third quadrant. For example, sine 210. 210 is in the third quadrant. So we put instead of 110, we put instead of it 180 plus 30. So sine 210 equals sine 180 plus 30. 180 plus third quadrant, so sine is negative in the third quadrant. The answer is negative sine 30, that's equal negative 1 over 2. Cosine 225. Cosine 225. 225 in the third quadrant, so it will be 180 plus 45. So we put instead of 225, we put instead of it 180 plus 45. So it will be cosine 180 plus 45. That equals negative cosine 45. Why? Because the cosine is negative. Its sign is negative in the third quadrant. It will be negative cosine 45. That's equal negative 1 over root 2, square root 2. The last one is tan 240 equals tan 180 plus 60. So tan is positive in the third quadrant. It will be tan 60. That's equals square root 3. Number 3. Trigonometric functions of two angles of measure theta and 360 minus theta. Sine 360 minus theta equals negative sine theta. Cosec 360 minus theta equals negative cosec theta. Cosine 360 minus theta equals cosine theta. Sec 360 minus theta equals sec theta. Tan 360 minus theta equals negative tan theta. Cotan 360 minus theta equals negative cotan theta. That's why, because 360 is in the fourth quadrant, and sine, cosec, tan, and cotan are negative as you see in the fourth quadrant. But cosec, cosine, and sec are positive in the fourth quadrant. So cosine and sec are positive in the fourth quadrant, but the rest of the trigonometric functions are negative. For example, sine 330. 330 is in the fourth quadrant, so it will be 360 minus 30. We put instead of 330, we put instead of it 330 minus 360 minus 30. So it will be sine 360 minus 30. Sine is negative in the fourth quadrant, so it will be negative sine 30. That equals negative 1 over 2. Another example, cosine 315 equals 315 is in the fourth quadrant. The answer is 360 minus 45. So it will be cosine. The cosine is positive because the cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. The answer is cosine 45. That equals 1 over square root 2. For example, without using calculator, find the value of the expression sine 150 cosine negative 300 plus cosine 930 cotan 240. The solution: first, sine 150. 150 is in the second quadrant. In the second quadrant, the operation is 180 minus, so it will be 180 minus 30. 180 minus sine 180 minus 30 equals sine 30. That equals half. Next, cosine negative 300. Negative 300, to convert the angle into positive, we add 360. So it will be cosine 60. That equals 1 over 2. Next, cosine 930. 930 is more than 360, so we subtract 2 times 360. That means we subtract 362 times from 930. The answer is cosine 210. Then cosine 210 equals 210 is in the third quadrant. It will be 180 plus 30. Cosine is negative in the third quadrant, so we put negative sign here, and it will be negative cosine 30. That equals negative square root 3 over 2. So cotangent 240 equals 240 is in the third quadrant. Yes, in the third quadrant. We put instead of it 180 plus 60. So cotangent it equals cotangent 180 plus 60. That's equal cotangent 60. Cotangent is 1 over 10. So 1 over 10 60 equals 1 over square root 3. So by adding and subtracting all this, it will be 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 plus negative square root 3 over 2 times 1 over square root 3 equals 1 over 4 minus 1 over 2. 1 over 4, we get it from multiplying the half and the other one, minus half, we get it from multiplying negative root 3 over 2 times 1 over root 3. So the answer is negative 1 over 4. Number 4, trigonometric functions of two complementary angles. The complementary angles are the angles that their sum equals 90. For example, theta and 90 minus theta. Sine 90 minus theta, so let's concentrate in this. Pay attention here. Sine is converted into cosine. Cosec is converted into sec. Cosine is converted into sine. Sec is converted into cosec. Tan is converted into cotan. And cotan is converted into tan. That's only with 90 and 270. With 90, if we see 90, so sine converted to cosine, cosine converted to sine, cosec converted to sec, sec converted to cosec, tan converted to cotan, and vice versa, cotan is converted to tan. For example, if the angle theta is in the standard position and its terminal side passes through the point 3 over 5, 4 over 5, then find the trigonometrical functions sine 90 minus theta, cotan 90 minus theta. The solution. We studied before that 90, here in this part, we studied that sine 90 minus theta equals cosine theta, as we see. And we studied before that cosine is the x in the order pair, so the cosine is x. The x here is what? Is 3 over 4. So cosine is 3 over 4. Therefore, sine 90 minus theta equals 3 over 5. Sorry, 3 over 5. Again, we studied here that sine 90 minus theta equals cosine theta. And we studied before that cosine theta is the x of the order pair. So the answer of sine 90 minus theta equals 3 over 5, which is the x of the order pair. The other example, cotan 90 minus theta. So cotan 90 minus is tan. Tan is y over x. Again, y divided x. So 4 over 5 divided 3 over 5 equals tan theta, which is equals to 4 over 3. Trigonometric functions of angles of measure theta and 90 plus theta. Again, number 5, trigonometric functions of angles measures theta and 90 plus theta. Sine 90 plus, so we see 90. If we see 90, we have to be sure that the sine is converted into cosine, cosec into sec, cosine into sine, sec into cosec, tan to cotan, and cotan to tan. 90 plus is in the second quadrant. In the second quadrant, sine and cosec are positive, so the answer here is positive, but cosine, tan, sec, and cotan are negative. As you see, they are negative. For example, if the angle theta is in the standard position and its terminal side passes through the point 1 over 3, 2 root 2 over 3. Find the trigonometric functions of tan 90 plus theta, cosec 90 plus theta. The solution: since tan 90 plus equals negative cotan theta, again 90 convert tan to cotan. 90 plus is in the second quadrant. Tan is negative in the second quadrant, so we put negative. So this negative is because the angle is in the second quadrant and tan is negative. And the cotan is the conversion of tan if we see 90. So the answer is tan 90 plus theta equals negative 1 over 2 root 2 equals negative root 2 over 4. We get this from, that's x, 1 over 3 is x, and 2 root 2 over 3 is y. Tan is y over x, but cotan is x over y. Okay, so we put 1 over 3 divided 2 root 2 over 3. The answer is negative 1 over 2 root 2. That equals negative root 2 over 4. The other one, since cosec 90 plus theta equals sec theta. Why? Because 90 plus is in the second quadrant, so cosec will be positive. So the sign here is positive. And cosec is converted to sec because we see 90. If we see 90, so cosec converted to sec. Sec is the reciprocal of what? Sec is the reciprocal of the cosine. And cosine is x in the order pair. So cosec 90 plus theta, as we see, equals 3. Trigonometric functions of angles of measure theta and 270 minus theta. 270 minus is in the third quadrant. Yes, it's in the third quadrant. And in the third quadrant, tan and cotan are positive, but cosine, sine, cosec, and sec are negative. Also, we do the same as we did in 90. In 90, the sine converted to cosine and vice versa, cosine to sine. Cosec to sec and vice versa, sec to cosec. The same we do with the 270. So, in 270 and 90, sine converted to cosine and cosine to sine, cosec to sec and sec to cosec, tan to cotan and cotan to tan. For example, if the angle theta is in the standard position and its terminal side passes through the points square root 3 over 2 and 1 over 2, find the trigonometric functions of cosine 270 minus theta, cotan 270 minus theta. The solution: since 270 minus theta equals negative sine theta, 270 minus is in the third quadrant, so cosine is negative and cosine converted to sine. Sine is y in the order pair, which is 1 over 2, so the answer is negative 1 over 2. Cotan 270 minus theta. 270 minus is in the third quadrant and cotan is in the third quadrant positive. So the answer is positive tan. Cotan converted to tan because there is we see 270. Tan equals y over x again. Tan equals y over x. So the answer is 1 over 2 divided square root 3 over 2. So the answer is 1 over square root 3. Trigonometric functions of two angles of measure theta, 270 plus theta. As we see, 270 plus is in the fourth quadrant In the fourth quadrant, the cosine and sec are positive, but sine, cosec, tan, and cotan are negative. 270, there is 270, we can see 270, so sine converted to cosine, cosine to sine, cosec converted to sec, and sec to cosec, tan converted to cotan, and cotan to tan. For example, if the angle theta is in the standard position and its terminal side passes through the point square root 5 over 3 and 2 over 3, find the trigonometric functions sine 270 plus theta, sec 270 plus theta. The solution: since 270 plus theta equals negative cosine theta, 270 plus is in the fourth quadrant and sine is negative in the fourth quadrant, sine converted to cosine because we can see 270. So the answer is negative cosine. Cosine is x, so the answer is negative square root 5 over 3. Sec 270 plus theta, 270 plus is in the fourth quadrant. So sec is positive and sec converted to cosec because we can see 270. Cosec is the reciprocal of sine. Sine is y. Y is 2 over 3. So if we find the reciprocal of 2 over 3, the answer is 3 over 2, which is the multiplicative of it. So the answer is 3 over 2. This general solution of trigonometrical equations in the form sine alpha equals cosine theta, sec alpha equals cosec theta, tan alpha equals cotan theta. Again, sine alpha with what's alpha and theta? Alpha and theta are two angles. For example, x and y, A and B, y and z. So it's just simple for angles. Sine angle equal cosine another angle. Sine alpha equals cosine theta. Sec alpha equals cosec theta. Tan alpha equals cotan theta. So if this occurred, if these three cases occurred, then sine alpha equals cosine theta. Then when sine alpha equals cosine theta, then alpha positive or negative beta equals pi over 2 plus 2 by n. Again, that's rule. We have to study it very well. Sine alpha equals cosine theta. Then alpha positive or negative beta equals pi over 2, which is 90, pi over 2 plus 2 by n, which is the n times 360. When cosec alpha equals sec theta, then alpha positive or negative beta equals pi over 2 plus 2 by n, the same as the previous example, the previous rule. The same as the previous rule. When tan alpha equals cotan theta, then pay attention here, tan alpha equals cotan theta, then alpha plus theta equals pi over 2, which is what? 90 plus pi n, which is 180 n. So alpha plus beta equals pi over 2 plus pi n. For example, solve the equation sine 2 theta equals cosine theta. Again, solve the equation sine 2 theta equals cosine theta. The solution: if sine equals cosine according to the previous rule, if sine equals cosine, then 2 theta positive or negative theta equals pi over 2 plus 2 by n. Again, 2 theta positive or negative theta equals pi over 2 plus 2 by n. So 2 theta plus theta, we take the positive only. We take the positive only in the left hand side. We take the positive only. 2 theta plus theta equals pi over 2 plus 2n pi. 2 theta plus theta equals 3 theta. So 3 theta equals pi over 2 plus 2 pi n. Pi over 2 is 90 and 2 pi n is 360n. So by dividing 3 from both sides, so it will be theta equals pi over 6 plus 2 over 3 pi n. This left hand side, when we take only the addition. For the subtraction, 2 theta minus theta equals pi over 2 plus 2 pi n. 2 theta minus theta means theta. So theta equals pi over 2 plus 2 pi n. So the solution of the equation, that means that the general solution of this equation is pi over 6 plus 2 over 3 pi n, which is the result from the addition, or pi over 2 plus 2 pi n, which is the result of the subtraction. Complete each of the following. Cosine 180 plus theta. Again, cosine 180 plus theta. 180 plus theta is in the third quadrant. If cosine is positive or negative in the third quadrant, it's what? It's negative. So the answer should be negative. Negative 180. So cosine is the same as it is. So the answer is negative cosine theta. Another example. Cosec 360 minus theta. Again, cosec 360 minus theta. 360 minus is in what? In the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, cosec is positive or negative? Yes, it's negative. And cosec is converted into any of the other trigonometric functions, or it's as it is? It's as it is. So the answer is negative cosec what? Negative cosec theta. Another example. Sine 90 plus theta. Okay, 90 plus is in what? In which quadrant? It's in the second quadrant. Yes, it's in the second quadrant. So, sine in the second quadrant is positive or negative? Yes, it's positive. Okay, and is sine converted to anything? Yes, it's converted to what? To cosine, because we can see what? We can see 90 the same we do if we see what? 270. Okay, so the answer is cosine theta. Number 4, sec 270 plus theta. 270 plus theta is in what? In the fourth quadrant. So it's in the fourth quadrant. Is sec is positive or negative in the fourth quadrant? It's what? Yes, it's a positive. And we see 270, so sec is converted into what? Into cosec. So then the answer is cosec theta. Let's try at home to solve these problems as homework. Thank you.